Okay, welcome to the first episode of this. We're going to call this series the Ask Mike series. So basically you guys can email in with your questions and I'll answer them in these videos. We'll give it a go. We'll see how it goes. We've got loads of questions that have been sent in and we're going to sort of pick a couple of them each day and run through them. So in this episode we've got an email from Teresa Larson, and Teresa says, "This is sort of dumb, but how do I learn to stop my fingers from touching the wrong string, giving my playing that plunk sound?" I love that. I suppose it's just practice, but maybe you have some trick to keeping your fingers on the string intended and no others. Thanks Mike, I love your guitar tips. Teresa, thanks for sending us this question. It's a great question. We've got lots of other questions that were very similar to this. I love you describing it as that plunk sound. I know exactly what you mean, that sort of, that deadened string sound. And yeah, so I guess to answer your question, yes, it is, a big part of it is practice, of course. Your finger accuracy and your finger strength will improve the more you play. So yeah, that is a big part of it. But specifically, the reason why, most of the time, the reason why you're catching some deadened strings, almost always, it's because your fingers are coming in at too shallow an angle. So if you're playing a C chord, for example, I see a lot of this stuff. Let me come close to the camera and hopefully this will turn out. Just look at this hand here. So I see, if someone's playing an E minor chord, I see a lot of this. And that often will catch on the strings underneath. What we want from an E minor is this. Can you see that it's kind of a circle? I want to see fresh air here. So if your fingers are coming down on the fret like that, they're a lot less likely to catch unwanted strings. But if they come in at a shallow angle like this, can you see? My fingers are almost parallel to the strings. Then that will nearly always catch on some unwanted strings. So in order to get that, we want your fingers to come down like a clamp. In order to get that, and the reason why some people come in at a shallow angle, it's because they can't reach the strings. So to get more guitar reach, there's two things that you need to do. So number one, be careful about where your thumb is on the neck, because your reach as a guitarist is from the tip of your thumb round to the tip of your finger. That's your reach as a guitarist. And if your thumb is up here somewhere, then you've stolen a lot of your reach as a guitarist. So tip number one to get more reach is to lower your thumb and put it about halfway down on the back of the neck, somewhere about there. We don't want this, okay? As you become a better guitarist and a more comfortable and confident guitarist, yes, your finger sometimes does stray up on certain chords, but as a general rule, you want it to be, kind of midway-ish on the neck for most chords. And when you do that, what happens is your fingers get a lot more reach. So step number one is lower your thumb, and the second step is to move your wrist forwards. Now what I see a lot of beginners do is they think that they just play guitar with their fingers, but that's not the case. We play the guitar with our whole forearm, and our wrist needs to move all the time depending on what chords we're playing. So I'll show you an example. If I'm playing a C chord, you can see that my fingers there are coming in at quite a shallow angle. Okay, so if my thumb's up there, then I don't have much room, but if I lower my thumb, I can move my wrist forwards and just watch what happens with my fingers. So instead of them coming in at a shallow angle, if I go like this, the end of my fingers, they're just coming down on the strings. And that's what we want, that last joint in your finger. We want that to come onto the strings at roughly a 90-degree angle. And if your fingers are too shallow, that's not what happens. Your fingers come in like this, and that's when you get that string buzzing. So there's two tips that will help fix this problem for you really quickly. Number one, lower your thumb. Number two, move your wrist forward. It will feel quite precarious at first. Your wrist doesn't feel very well supported, but you'll quickly get used to that. And when you do that, lower your thumb, move your wrist forward, all of a sudden your fingers have more reach. Just avoid one little extra tip there that I see a lot of people do when I share this with them, is they do that, but they sort of push the guitar away from them when they do it. So when the wrist goes forward, they move the guitar forward, and what that does is it steals the reach that you're adding. So make sure that your guitar is going across your body like this, and that it doesn't go out like that. I see a lot of people do that. We don't want that. You want the guitar to run across your body. So a couple of tips for you to play around with there. Thanks again for your question, Teresa, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next video. A big part of making progress as a guitarist with questions exactly like this one from Teresa is practicing in the right way. So if you want to get a one-page guide with our 10 best guitar practice tips that will help you learn guitar at light speed, head over to nationalguitaracademy.com/YT26, or you can just click the link in the video description now and you'll just get that. You know, it's kind of like a simple sort of checklist with our 10 best tips for how you can make sure you're practicing guitar in the right way and to get the most out of your guitar practice time. So if you want to check that out, click the link in the video description now.